most of the time when I go in and work with companies, what you'll see is this cloudiness around the competitive landscape. And this is particularly bad on the product management side because product management is used to living in the future. They're thinking about roadmaps. They're thinking about where we're going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. But when we think about positioning is all about how do I win business right now, this quarter, next quarter, the quarter after. What's a salesperson got to do to land a deal right now against the competitors we got right now? Because I'm giving you my right now dollars. This isn't like venture capital where I'm taking a gamble on what's going to happen in the future. I'll give you today dollars for the thing you can do today.
Welcome to LaunchPod, the show from LogRocket where we sit down with top product and digital leaders. This week, we're fanboying out a little bit. Since day one of this podcast, we've had a dream list of guests, and today we finally crossed a big name off that list. We're joined by the undisputed queen of B2B positioning herself, April Dunford. April is the best-selling author of the seminal book, Obviously Awesome, and the new hit Sales Pitch. She spent 25 years as a startup executive and consultant helping companies stop guessing and start winning. If you've ever struggled to explain exactly why competitors should pick you over the other guy, this episode is a masterclass. In this episode, April talks about why positioning really is a product problem, how undefined positioning leads to wasted roadmaps, not good enough, feedback from sales, and engineering teams burning out on features that don't win deals, the AI washing trap, and why saying we have AI is no longer a strategy, and how to articulate the specific value your tech unlocks that the competition can't, why she loves when competitors lie, how to ethically trap competitors who overpromise features, and the one question your sales team should tell prospects to ask them, and finally, vision versus reality, how to sell the glorious future without losing the deal you need to close today. So here's our episode with April Dunford. All right, today we have a very special episode. This one's, for me as much as anyone else, I am super stoked. April Dunford, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You were, I think, one of the top 5 dream guests we had when we launched this thing.
What?
Yeah, I know, right?
You're gassing me up. I like it.
But the book Obviously Awesome is a seminal book in product positioning. I literally reread it, took notes, used it when I joined as for my first executive gig, and
that's cool.
It's a really helpful book that I do think anyone, aspiring leaders, junior people, leaders should read. You're an author, you're a consultant, a speaker, you've done the startup thing for real. Yeah, just really stoked to have you on. This is like a legend in my mind here. So this is great. Wow. I'm stoked.
Well, it's great to be here. And thanks for saying that about the book. That book was a pain in the butt, right? And so I like it when people say that it was useful, because that was the goal on that thing. I have a bit of a problem with books that are just too much ideas and not enough how do we actually get it done. And I wanted to write a how do we get it done kind of book. So I feel really good when people say, hey, we'll use your thing and we actually use it to get some stuff done. I'm like, thank goodness, because that thing was a pain to write.
That's what I liked about it. Is functionally useful even for a senior person, and it's great because it kind of gives a shared vocab to argue with other stakeholders about things you disagree on, which is helpful. So sometimes you just need the shared context of what you're going to talk about, and then you can actually be functional. So thank you for that, because that helped me a lot in my career. But I guess you have a super deep background. You're not just an author. Maybe just for the 3 people who live under a rock who don't know who you are, who are listening, do you want to give just the kind of how did you get here?
Sure.
And who was that 6th grade teacher who told you that you weren't going to be an author? Because I think you proved them wrong.
Yeah, so I took a bit of a circuitous route here. I studied engineering in university. When I came out, I had a job in product marketing. And in that first job, we repositioned a product. And we were very successful at it, even though we didn't really know what we were doing. We were kind of just monkeying around with it. We didn't even know it was called positioning. We thought we were just fooling around with the product. But we repositioned it, and then that company ended up getting acquired, and my boss quit. They made me the vice president of marketing, which was just one of those, you're standing in the right corner of the hallway when your boss quits and someone says, it's you now. And I go, anyway, and then we did a bunch of good work there. And I sort of decided, well, this is my jam. I'm the VP marketing now. And then I spent 20 years as a repeat vice president of marketing at a series of venture-backed startups. So basically I would come in when the company was like Series A, Series B, you need to hire somebody vice president style, grow the group, get the revenue going up to the right. And then in my case, things would just get going good and then would get acquired. And then through acquisition, you end up with the big company and you got to do your earn out and all that stuff. And then I would bounce back out to the next startup and do it again. So I did that for about 25 years. And towards the end of that in particular, positioning really became my jam. Vice presidents of marketing, we come in all flavors. Like some folks are really good at lead generation, some folks are really good at comms, some folks are really good at whatever. My thing was positioning. And so I often got hired when the company thought they were in a bit of a positioning jam and I could talk intelligently about that. So after the last company I was at, I had done 7 of these and I kind of thought, okay, maybe I need to go do something new. I decided I would do consulting. So I made the switch to consulting about 10 years ago. And now what I do is very, very narrow. So I only work with B2B technology companies and even more specifically, folks that do enterprise software. So for the most part, there's a sales team involved somewhere in the sales motion. They might not be entirely sales led. There might be some PLG in there, but I don't tend to do any pure PLG. All the companies I work with have a sales team in there. And what we do is positioning, basically, like we're trying to get really tight on defining how the company wins in the market, and then also crafting a story around that. And in particular, a sales pitch that the sales team can use to go out and clearly differentiate the offering from the other things that a customer could do. So that's what I've been doing for the last, 10 years. And yeah, wrote a couple of books.
1 or 2.
Yeah, 2, and that's enough. I think actually I get, we can talk about, I do have one thing that I'm working on right now. Technically not a new book, but I'm going to do a second edition of the first book. So
Nice.
sort of expanded and revised version of the first book that sort of includes all the stuff I've learned in the last 7 years since the first book came out.
We were talking about this before, but I feel like the world has changed a little bit in the past 7 years. And so I think we kind of lost the path of positioning leading up through maybe, 2020, 2021, 2022, where money was free. And, it's easy to be a genius when everything's growing, right? It's the hard parts when the train stops. And we kind of saw that in 2022.
Well, things like what a bunch of years we've been through. Like I put that book out in 2018. And so 2 years later, we had COVID. So COVID hit, and that was like a positioning catastrophe for a lot of tech companies where, like I worked with companies that were selling into the travel industry, and there was no travel industry for like a year and a half. And I remember doing some work with a company that sold software for stadiums, like big stadiums. There were no stadiums open.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how are you going to survive through that? So there was a lot of frantic repositioning going on 2020, 2021. And then post 2021, what we got was, this big acceleration in tech, and everybody had lots of money. Everybody was growing like crazy. And you're right. Like it's easier to do business when things are like that, but it often leads to a bunch of interesting positioning challenges too. Like, companies having the resources and the ability to get into new markets they wouldn't have bothered trying to get in before. Lots of companies doing acquisitions. And so acquisitions are always hard from a positioning standpoint. Like we've got this new thing now. How does the sales team talk about that? How do we position that with respect to everything else we've got in the portfolio? So lots of challenges there. And then in the last couple of years, AI has really thrown a bunch of companies a real curveball in terms of, what used to be very, very differentiating for them is now sometimes kind of commodity, kind of table stakes. Everybody's trying to prove that they're serious about AI and they've got a serious perspective on AI. There's a lot of stuff that it's differentiating for a week and then everybody else catches up. So how do you deal with that?
As we talked earlier, one of the things that just struck me that I hadn't thought enough about before was the whole kind of the ZERP period roll up, like you said, where everyone's just trying a lot of new things and trying positioning over here. And the downside of that is when everything works, it's easy to look like a genius. But the positive side is I think we saw a lot of things, to your point, that ended up working that we wouldn't have known about before because no one would have been brave enough to try it in a down or light market. So
that's right. People didn't have the capital. They didn't have the resources. The board's not sitting there going, yeah, let's try some crazy moonshot things, man. Let's just go and try it out. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Like nobody's doing that right now.
Right. But so we, it giveth and taketh away. But that was the positive. But now we are in that tighter thing again where, unless you are a few companies, in which case you can, raise at a $500 billion valuation. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like for most of us, it's how do you operate a little bit tighter? And I think it is, I hope we're going to see another golden age of people really focusing and driving towards what is the type market we do.
Well,
And
it's weird, right? Like we
right,
have two things going on at once. On the one side, we've got everybody's really being cautious about how much money they spend, right? We're seeing everybody getting really tight on expenses. We're seeing lots of layoffs, not big layoffs, but small layoffs. We're seeing lots of that. We're just seeing belt tightening all over the place. And we're seeing belt tightening with our customers as well. So the customers are not spending as much money and, not taking these bigger chances on things. That's happening. But at the same time, we've got this absolute AI arms race where the companies, particularly the bigger companies that are in market right now, they have to show that they are not going to get obliterated by and become just a nothing burger because AI is going to basically do the thing that they do and the thing they're really differentiated in. And there's big companies that, up until now have been, a real strategic partner for their customers, and their customers are now looking at them going, I don't know, man, like I'm going to have this AI stuff. And are you still really a strategic partner for me when we're in the age of AI and I'm going to have one or two companies that I rely on to do AI stuff? And then there's you. And you were my provider for accounting or, or whatever, or ERP in some ways or whatever. And you're not my AI provider. So what are you? And is your stuff actually strategic anymore? This is the really hard thing that a lot of big companies are going through right now.
and then kind of on the other side, right? You have, if you are at a startup or mid or scale up or really anything that's not one of the gigantic kind of table stakes, like you said, strategic
Yeah.
partners, you have a board or an executive team or both, probably at some level of telling you have to have an AI story, or what is your AI story, or what's the AI
Right.
strategy. That ranges everywhere from people who have a deep functional answer to this is how it's going to make the thing we sell better. And then you get the, I call it the salt bay of AI on it, where they just kind of sprinkle a little AI. It's like SEO back in the day. I'll put the SEO magic on
Yeah.
it. So that's the biggest thing, is like everyone now says they have AI. I guess that's the first thing I was curious about, was how do you position in a world where everyone's saying the same thing, or like what does AI
Yeah.
mean? Because that's not new. That's always happened. People say the same thing. They grab each other's messaging, but like
That's right. That's
this,
right.
but AI is the new thing.
No, AI is the new thing. And so, like, here's a way to think about it. We are quickly approaching the point. Like, if I rolled the calendar back a couple of years ago, a lot of these things were new. So there was again sort of this race. Like, well, we're the first ones to have AI in this thing, and there might be five vendors in your space, but you were fast and on top of it or whatever, and say we got the AI and they don't, right? But now we've got this period where everybody's got the AI, man. So, it's been over a year, probably 2, since I've worked with a company where, AI wasn't a significant part of what they were doing in the product. So we've got this thing now where everybody's got the AI. So what's differentiating, right? Really, it comes down to what is the value that we're unlocking with that AI. And interestingly, a lot of that comes down to what was differentiating about your product before. And so how are you using AI to then unlock the strategic asset that you had before? So some companies, for example, have data that nobody else has. And therefore, they can apply AI in a way that folks who don't have that data, they got the same AI, but they can't unlock the same things because they don't have the same access to data underneath it because they have some proprietary data, or, their product did something in a way that the other thing didn't. Therefore, when they put the AI on top, the result for the customer is very, very different. So we're now in this stage where, just saying, oh, I got a chat interface for this thing. Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Everybody's got one of those. I got to say, like last week, I worked with a company and they had acquired another company. And, when I asked them, well, what does this thing do? And it was like, well, it's kind of a chat interface on everything. And I was like, oh boy. But then when you looked at it, oh my goodness, it had a bunch of things way beyond that was actually really, really impressive. And so we spent a lot of time talking about the value of that, because you can't just say, well, it's a chat interface on the front. It's like, no, it's a chat interface that can do a whole lot of other things, unlock a whole lot of other things. It's all about what does that chat interface actually connect to, And because it can connect to all these things, what can you actually do that you couldn't do before? It's taken it that one more step to get to the nut of what's the value that you can deliver for a customer that the other guys can't. And that goes into, well, yeah, I got a chat interface, but what does it have access to? Like, what do you have underneath there that the other guys didn't have?
I
Like,
always get in trouble for my tirade on chat interfaces because we also have a chat interface for part of our product, and
right.
my our CEO is always like, Jeff, come on, you cannot say that, and
Stop being so hard on the chat
stop
interface,
crapping on
man.
the chat interface. We have that, and I'm like, yeah, but ours does something cool and it enables you to do something good.
But
It's
this is it. But this is it.
yeah,
You've gotta be able to articulate that,
right. No
right?
one
You
cares
have
about the
to be
chat
able to
interface.
articulate
It's what
that.
you can do with it
That's right.
that is important. So that's what I
Well, and
always
not
said.
just what you can do with it. What you can do with it, the other guys can't. Like, if you say you got a chat interface, everybody else is gonna go, "Yeah, buddy, me too. We got one of those too." So you gotta be able to go that extra step and say, "What are we doing with the AI that's different? How does it unlock value?" Which is fundamental positioning stuff. Like, that was true, back when we were all in a big race to get everything on the cloud, and that was a differentiator to be in the cloud, and you weren't on the cloud, and things like that. So that really isn't any different than what we've always wrestled with. I think it's actually good that we're pulling out of the early days of this where you could just say, we got the AI and that was differentiating. Now we actually have to think more about outcomes. Like, what does the customer get? What's the outcome for the customer?
There was all the like AI innovation budget, right? For a little while, you could go to
That's
almost
right.
any company and just go, we have AI, and you could get a POC going. You could maybe get a small purchase
That's right.
because they had almost unlimited budget to just try things.
We still have a reasonable amount of that, right? With big
Yeah.
clients, there's still a reasonable amount of this. Like, you got to say the AI words because otherwise you can't tap into the
Oh
AI
yeah.
budget.
No, we
Um,
still have to say that magic word to get in.
but that on its own, like when everybody's got it, now what do you say, right? And what you have to get at is your differentiated value. What's the value we can deliver that the other guys can't? At the end of the day, that's what's going to win you the business.
The genesis behind all this, and I started to tell you this earlier, like one of the things we've done that's been really helpful for our own positioning actually is we've been building this community of product leaders kind of around the country where we will go. And one of the things we do is host dinners of about 30, CPOs, VPs. But like this is the number one topic that I hear no matter where I'm in the country, San
Mm.
Francisco or Minneapolis or Denver or Chicago or Boston, New York. Everyone's saying like, how do we escape this kind of how do we escape this AI pilot trough? How do we differentiate in this world? Or just what do I say? I'm expected to say AI, but like what comes after those two letters?
In my opinion, which is super biased because I'm the positioning lady, but in my opinion, like the problem we've had in tech since the beginning is we don't have a lot of discipline about how we do positioning. And so when we're thinking about positioning, we want to jump straight to value and say, this is the value we can deliver. You should pick us because we can deliver this value. And that just doesn't win you a deal. Like, it doesn't. What wins you a deal is this is the value that we can deliver that the other folks you're looking at can't. And that's really different. Like, those two things are really different. We can do this versus we can do this and no one else can. These are two very, very different things. And so in order to get at this differentiated value, you first have to start with a really clear-headed view on who do you actually compete with? Not who could you compete with, not who are you likely to compete with 2 years from now, not who you used to compete with 2 years ago when the founder closed all the deals. It's who is showing up in a deal right now and what do you have to beat in order to win a deal, which, by the way, includes the status quo of whatever it is they're doing right now. So what I find what you get in organizations is they'll say, we don't have anything differentiating. We got nothing. We got nothing. We looked at it. There's nothing that we do that's unique. And then I'll say, okay, well, how much revenue do you? The last time I had this conversation, the guy says, 80 million. I'm like, that's a lot of revenue. Are you growing? Yeah, 20, 30% year on year. Okay, so every day, your customers do this comparison and they pick you. They're not idiots. They're picking you for a reason, right? There's got to be something. Most of the time, when I go in and work with companies, what you'll see is this cloudiness around the competitive landscape. And this is particularly bad on the product management side, I think, because product management is used to living in the future. They're thinking about roadmaps. They're thinking about where we're going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. But when we think about positioning is all about how do I win business right now, this quarter, next quarter, the quarter after. What's a salesperson got to do to land a deal right now against the competitors we got right now? So when we look at the competitive landscape, often product management will give me this list of competitors that is much, much longer than what we actually have to fight against in a deal. So when the product management team says, we don't have anything that's differentiating, it's like, yeah, okay. But these guys at the bottom here, these last 4 that do the little cool thing that you do, are 3 guys in a basement and they never land on a short list against you. So we can just put X's through them. As far as the customer is concerned, they don't exist. They're a ghost.
Right. And big companies are not going to trust them right now or like.
And so I don't have to worry about positioning against them until they start causing me some pain. If they start popping up into sales deals, okay, I'll worry about them and I'll worry how to position against them. But once you get that clarity and you say, well, who actually are we fighting against? It's usually like you've got this tiny little list. Now all of a sudden you say, oh, well, we've got these things and they don't have that. But you were including these, cutting edge, whatever, but we read their press release and they said they had this thing. It's like, yeah, but there's not a single customer out there using it. So that's the first thing. It's like, I really got to understand who I need to position against. And then once I have that, then I can take this really rational look at what is the delta between me and the real competition, not who could compete with me, who should compete with me, but who actually does. And when I get really tight on that, then I got to take differentiators and map it all the way out to value. Like I can't just say, I've got this kind of AI thing and they don't have that. So what? What does that mean for a customer's business? Like, how does that help a customer make money? How does that help a customer save money? And I got to draw the line all the way out to that. But if I can do that, then I get at the real differentiation. Often what you'll get is people want to jump straight to that value thing. And so they're like, they want to answer, why does everybody love us so much? And that's the wrong question. The right question is, why pick us over the 3 other people on the short list and the status quo thing? Why pick us over them? What can we do for the business that they can't?
I've kind of tried to look at it, and this is a lot from reading, obviously it helped hear that, like, if we're replacing something, because we are ultimately a software company, right? Like we have a big media team, which is a whole separate go-to-market conversation, but we are a software company at heart. Is what we do. We sell software for understanding how users use your solutions, session replay and AI to help you understand that. For us, the way I look at it is, if we are replacing something, we have to be not 2x better, but like 5, probably 10x better than what we're replacing, because there's cost. So like, what is the thing? Looking at who they have, because that's at that point, it becomes a 1-to-1, maybe a 1-to-2, because maybe there's someone else they're evaluating.
Right.
We need to be 10x better than the thing they already have.
Yeah. It's such a pain to switch. It's expensive to switch. It's a pain in the butt. Everybody's got to learn something new. There's the risk of failure. Like if you look on the data on this, in enterprise software, we lose about half of our deals to what we call no decision. And this no decision, when you scratch at the data under that, no decision, usually it's not that we looked at all the other things and decided that the thing we're doing now is amazing and we don't need to switch. It's we looked at everything else and we said, I don't know. I don't know if I can make a confident choice here. And I'm for sure going to end up with something that's way better than what we have right now. And it's a risky choice to make. Like, what if I pick the wrong thing? What if the project fails? What if I personally end up looking stupid? What if my boss thinks I'm a dummy because I picked this thing? It's so easy to just kick the can down the road and say, go to your boss and say, hey man, like now's not a good time. I looked at the other things. They were okay. They're okay. The market's not so great right now. Maybe now is not a good time to invest in this thing. Like it's kind of like when you look at the data on this stuff, it's kind of remarkable that we ever sell anything. So if you come into it with that idea, right? Like you need to come into it with that attitude. Like, why would anybody buy anything versus this thing that they've got that's been working just fine for the last 3 years? So you got to make this, this really compelling case.
I want to go back to, not today you didn't, but I've read this from what you said. This stuck with me for a long, long time, is like when you ultimately get down to it, you can paint the aspirational picture of vision and magic of where you're going to take people.
Right.
But what the thing is going to be decided on is, can you solve my pain right now?
Because I'm giving you my right now dollars.
Yeah.
This isn't like venture capital where I'm taking a gamble on what's going to happen in the future. Like this is why it's so different than fundraising, right? Sales is a whole different thing. It's like, I'm going to give you today's dollars. I'm not giving you tomorrow's dollars. I'm giving you today dollars for the thing you can do today. Like, yeah, I care a bit about your vision and whatever. Like, and the more I'm spending, the more I care about that because I want you to stay in business. I want you to be around for the next 5 years. I want to make sure I made the right choice here and your roadmap aligns with mine. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm going to give you this much money. What do I get back?
Yeah. What can I
Like,
do better or what's not going to hurt tomorrow because I give you this money right
that's
now?
right. How am I gonna make more money? How am I gonna save more money? Like, how does the money thing work over on my end, buddy? Because 'Cause I'm giving you this money. I gotta see
And
what's
I'm
coming
putting my
back from
reputation on the line here. Like we're changing something. I'm saying that this is a
exactly.
better idea than what we're doing. And so my
That's
ass is
right.
on the line. So in your mind, is the kind of path there? Well, there's only dual positioning at some level, or maybe that's wrong, but there's the right now context of what is the pain, what is the thing that tomorrow will be better because you bought us and signed with us today. And there is the company positioning of here's the new future you can have down the road. And that's how you keep people thinking about you who maybe aren't evaluating an immediate purchase.
Yeah. Like, it for me, that's felt really different depending on the size of the deal you're selling. Like, when I worked at IBM and we were doing a deal that was like 10 million bucks, like, people cared a lot about the future because we're not ripping out that 10 million bucks worth of stuff for the next 10 years. So we're looking at this like a 10-year commitment. Whereas I'm selling you a thing that costs 20 grand, 30 grand. Dude, if it's not going so good, I'm gonna rip you out in 6 months, and I'm not gonna feel too bad about that. And so especially, we're in SaaS software, increasingly, it's consumption-based software, pricing on this software. So, I can test you out for a little bit, and if it's not so good, I'll just stop using it or doing whatever. And if it's consumption-based, I don't pay you if I'm not using it. So, it really depends on the hurdle the company has to get over to get the initial adoption happening. Like, so do I have to do a lot of integration work? Do I have to do a lot of training work? Do I have to do a lot of things? And so if there's a lot of that and the company's really putting their neck on the line in terms of applying resources to all that, and they care a lot about the vision because they don't, they're making a bet that they're not going to have to rip you out in a few years. If they don't have to make that big of a bet on it, then they don't care that much about the vision at all. They're just like, how's this gonna fix my thing right now? Like this month, next month, the month after that.
I think this goes back to a thing now that I've run into at companies I've been at in the past. Right? I've been at one of the early companies, kind of in application performance management, way back in the
Yeah,
day
yeah,
when
yeah.
that whole thing
Yep,
was launching. And
yep.
the thing we ran into is we'd say something that resonated, and immediately our competition would start saying the same thing. Both the upstarts as well as like CA Wiley, back way
Oh,
back
this
in the
happens all
day.
the time.
Yes,
The
it's
dirty
good.
liars, the dirty lying.
I think you call it like the dark arts of competition, right? But how do no one wants to say we do this, that company doesn't in public. How do you kind of balance this? Like we do this and they don't, but at the same time run into they're just going to say they do it anyway.
I actually love it when the competitor is lying. And the worse the lie is, the better it is for you. And so here's how I like to deal with this. So usually when we look at it and say the competitor is lying, usually they're not lying. And what they're saying could be true if the stars all align perfectly and in a certain situation and at 2 o'clock on a Thursday, third Thursday of the month. So what it is an opportunity to teach your customer something. So if you're in a deal, you can do a thing and you absolutely do it and you understand the value of that thing and you're talking to the customer about the value of that thing. And then your competitor comes up and says, "Oh yeah, us too." Usually what they mean is they do the thing, or at least they have a way of doing the thing, but they don't deliver the value. This is why the value is really important. So the first thing you have to teach the customer is, look, we do this thing, here's the value of it. They could technically do the thing, but you're never going to get to the value. Here's why. So I'll give you an example. So I worked with this company and they had started out as a solution for one particular thing in a business process. And then gradually the company had grown and they had expanded so that they had a platform of solutions that could handle this entire business process. Their big competition had grown through acquisition. And so they also had solutions for each of the steps in the business process. The problem was those solutions were all completely discrete because they had acquired them all, right? So this company was going out and saying, we have a platform that handles the end-to-end solution. That's not value. That's just kind of the thing. So when we worked together, we had to get at what was the value of that? Well, the value of that is all the things you're doing at the start, people at the end know when, the minute that happens, people at the end know it's happening because there's this common data layer underneath. So you can get this amazing efficiency in the process because at every step, people know what's happening upstream and downstream because it's all one connected, nice platform. Now, the other guys come up and they're like, we got a platform too. We got a platform too. Look at all the things. We have all the things. There they are. But they can't do this efficiency on the process because each of those things are actually separate products. So if you do something over here, nothing over here knows anything about it. There's no common metadata layer. There's no common thing. So they would come up and say, oh yeah, we have a platform too. Oh yes, we can do this too. Oh yes, yes. And so what we would do, or what we did with this company, was even the first sales call, we would talk about this idea of getting this efficiency across the process. And what's really cool is they, so they're starting to add some AI stuff to that. And so what's neat about that is because it's common data all the way across, you could actually have an agent and automate the whole thing because it's common data all the way across. Never do it with the other guys because every step is completely separate. It's a completely separate product. They don't even have the same data definitions. Like what's considered a product over here is not the same definition of a product over here, for example. So we would teach the customer this thing. It's all one thing. It's all the same data. Look, this thing happens here and these guys know it. And so therefore you could get this great efficiency. And if you wanted to, you could automate the entire thing. Great. Now, in the sales process, they would say, look, there are other companies out there that have piece parts that do this thing, but they are not a platform. And so because they're not a platform, they can't share the data. They can't do this automation thing. So the next time you're talking to a company, ask them these questions. And the killer question was this: how many logins are there?
Right. I mean, right there, you're just like, all right, never mind.
What do you mean? How many logins? And they're like, yeah, they will literally say it's a platform, but you got 5 logins. So go ask them, how many logins are there? The salespeople love that one so much. So, so I did a call with them 2-3 weeks after they were using this new sales pitch where they were telling the customers like, hey, the other guys, they say do it, but it's not actually, it's 5 things. It's just like if you bought it from 5 different companies, ask them how many logins. And then the customer would come back and they'd be like, those guys were lying to us. They were lying. Oh my gosh, I caught them in a lie. And this is so dangerous for a company. And then the competitor stopped saying this platform thing because it's so dangerous to get caught in a lie with a customer. It's the deal killer. It's the deal killer. So if there is an opportunity and your customer, your competitor is lying, then what you should really think about is, what is the simple way for me to train my prospects, the difference between the outcome they get with us versus the outcome they get with the others, and train them on the qualifying questions they should be asking to the other vendors on the short list to get through the lie. And just call it out. You don't even have to call out the competitor's name. You just have to say, look, some folks out there will say this, but when they say that, what they actually mean is that's a team of professional services people. It's a 6-month engagement. It looks like this. You're not going to get it out till next Christmas. Anyway, so I love it when the competitor lies.
No, that works even if they're not lying, but if you just know there's that deficiency, because on our end,
it's almost always that.
Yeah, our big value prop is we are the session replay that the AI watches for you and tells you what's wrong. And the magic is in it just pushes to you. And it was interesting because we started to say, okay, we'll go ask blah, 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 other company, how they want you to find things like this. And because we knew the answer was often going to be get a bunch of people in a room, watch a whole bunch of sessions together, and you'll find some stuff. And we're like, just go. We knew the answer. We're like, go ask that question. And that, that always worked. And
that's exactly it. That's exactly how you handle it.
The last thing I was curious about is because the genesis of all this was I'm running into this from product people coast to coast, like San Francisco to Boston and everywhere in between. But the other thing that comes up is, and I love that you've spoken on this already, because I think this is something people need to hear. Why is positioning so important for product? And it's not because they're looking way in the, it's, sometimes point they can't just look way in the future. They have to look at the now for what we sell. But it's also, if you don't have this right, you have a very high risk of burning out engineering and product teams where they're working hard. But if you're not driving the right thing forward, all they're going to hear is that's not good enough, or that's not what we need. And you can kill yourself nights and weekends, but if you're misaligned, it's just
Yeah.
it's all gonna be for naught. And like I thought that was
Yeah.
a really prescient thing that you've brought up in the past.
Yeah, I do think that we have to be really clear that there's things we're worried about for the here and now, and then there's things we're worried about in the future. And so we might make a decision today that says, okay, today we're positioned around this, right? We're going to go after these kinds of customers. The way we win is we're better at this particular thing. This is how we win in the market today. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way we win forever. And all we're doing is building a roadmap that makes that value prop stronger and stronger. Sometimes we are, but it's perfectly okay to say, but you know what? 2 years from now, our plan is we're going to make an acquisition in this area that unlocks this thing. We're going to be going after a completely different customer and doing a completely different thing. And that's amazing. And the hard thing in product management is you got to hold both things in your head. You got to know where we're going and we're building this thing for the future, which might actually have completely different value proposition, different target customers, different way we win, different competitors, different everything. But we also cannot lose sight of the fact, like, we don't get to stay in business for that glorious future if we don't make the number this year. And so we got to kind of hold both things. And we can't get the two things muddled. We can't get out over our skis starting to worry about these competitors that don't actually cause us pain right now, even though we know or we think they might cause us pain 2 years from now. We've got to be able to have this really clear picture of, here's the value we provide right now for the competitors we're against right now, for the customers we're trying to serve right now, while we're building this other thing where those things might be completely different. Customers might be different, value might be different, competitors might be different, and we can never get the two things confused.
I think that's the key to product and making sure you have that team.
Hard.
If you're not communicating both of those things, like here's where we are,
Both.
the path and where we need to be,
Right.
you run a big risk of some or many people, right? Burnout,
Right.
disillusionment, whatever the word you want to pick.
That's exactly it. That's
So-
exactly it. Because the sales team is like, oh, you guys are building this thing, but that doesn't help me do a deal right now. Wah, 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 right? And it's because they don't understand necessarily where you're going,
Right.
where you're at right now. So
I
again,
need
you've
this
got to be
feature
able to
to close
explain
this one
both.
deal right now, but it does,
Right.
and so but if you can explain all that clearly, it's going to
Yeah.
help everyone across the board understand why we're doing things at the same
Exactly.
time. Help you sell. All right. Well, I think that puts a great kind of period at the end of the sentence for the whole message here is the world was crazy. It's still kind of crazy. AI is, but like at heart rate, AI is a tool we're using to still solve the same problems we were trying to solve before.
Yeah.
You want to focus on what you can do that others can't
Right.
and, have the vision for the future, but you also got to look at now and don't mix the two. Keep it very
Don't
clear.
mix the two. That's the key. It's so hard to do, but it's actually the key.
Well, April Dunford, thank you so much for joining.
Awesome.
If you guys haven't read, obviously awesome. Actually, I guess it sounds like maybe wait a month or two and buy the new one when it
I
comes
know
out.
I hate talking about it for exactly that reason, to cannibalize my own sales. So let me tell you about it. So the original book, obviously awesome, describes a methodology for doing positioning. So if you're in a positioning jam and you're kind of like, how do I actually get this done? That book was written for that. I put it out in 2019. And since then, I've worked with a couple hundred companies. My thinking on some of this stuff has changed. And some of the things in the book, I didn't think I did an awesome job explaining it. Like, for example, differentiated value, I think is so important. And the chapter on differentiated value in the first version of the book wasn't actually all that long. And so now what I'm seeing is people really getting stuck on that. And I'm like, man, I could have spent a bit more time explaining what I meant in there. There's also a bunch of stuff in there that I didn't cover in the first version, like how do you handle positioning when you have multiple products or multiple divisions. So there's a bunch of new stuff in the new book. It's sort of the expanded, updated edition. So that's coming in February. So not long now.
That's not long at all. No, that's
Not
long enough.
now.
That's long enough to buy the original version, read it, take notes, and then
Yeah.
buy the new one when
Just
it
buy
comes
the
out.
audiobook, man. You've got credits. It's free.
That's
But
not
yeah,
where to
the
save
new
your
one's
money.
going to be great.
Yeah,
Like in my opinion, the new one fixes all the problems of the first one. I'm like, put a bow on it. It's perfect. I will never go back to this book again. We're done.
But thank you so much for coming on. Definitely a highlight of the year on my end. So I appreciate it. Go buy the book, buy the new one when it comes out. After you read that read sales pitch, because it honestly helps a lot. And also we have seen more product people more involved in go to market consistently over time. So like listen,
Yeah.
guys, you know you're going to end up involved in sales more and more. So just go get ahead of it.
Yep.
You're on LinkedIn. You're is AprilDunford.com?
AprilDunford.com.
Yeah. So
Yep.
lots of ways. Check it out. And April, thank you so much. This was a blast. I appreciate you coming on, and I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Awesome.